Chosen one, there's a kind of man that women think they know, the type they've encountered before. Charming on the surface, predictable in depth, a collection of practiced gestures. And then there is you. You, chosen one, arrive with no need to perform. You do not dress yourself in masks. You don't force your way into attention, nor advertise your presence with loud declarations or polished flattery. You simply exist, and your existence radiates something so rare, so layered, that it leaves women reeling in a silence that echoes louder than any words. They didn't expect you to pull them into curiosity with so little effort. At first, they assumed you were like the others, another man with a sharp smile and a steady voice. But something inside you defied assumption. They watched you from a distance, drawn not by your posture or your words, but by a kind of gravity that lingers around your presence. Your sexual energy isn't wild or reckless. It's controlled, contained, and in that containment, it becomes thunderous. The more still you are, the more you shake them inside. There's something deeply attractive about a man who is unapologetically himself without needing validation, and that's what breaks them open around you. You don't chase, you don't play games, you carry your masculinity like an ancient script written in silence. You are the mystery they didn't realize they were starving for. The one who doesn't need to ask for attention to hold it completely. Your energy seeps into the atmosphere, like a slow burn, and suddenly, women who believed they had seen everything haven't seen you. They find themselves studying you longer than they should, wondering what it is about you that makes them feel awakened and unsettled at the same time. They laugh at themselves because they don't get this way, not over just any man, and yet here they are, drawn to a soul they barely understand. A man they never expected would become the most interesting presence in their world, but you are. And they feel it in places they can't speak of, because you weren't a performance, you were a presence. And that, chosen one, is a surprise that rewrites them from within. Chosen one, there is a language you speak that has no words. A pulse in the way you look at the world that makes women feel like they've entered a dream that doesn't end when they wake. They try to explain it, but how do you articulate a man who both calms and electrifies your nervous system in the same breath? They can't put you into categories because you escaped them all. You are not the rebel, nor the golden boy, nor the intellectual archetype. You're not the lone wolf, or the player, or the safe nice guy. You are something else. Something rare, and that rarity cannot be mapped. They've studied you in moments you didn't even notice. They've watched the way your presence fills the room without a sound, how you command respect without demanding it, how your silence often says more than most men's speeches. Your sexual energy doesn't flash like fireworks, it hums like a magnetic field, invisible but undeniable, and it stirs something deep in the feminine spirit. Not lust, not fantasy, but fascination. A kind of emotional and energetic intrigue that makes them rethink everything they believed they knew about attraction. They look into your eyes and feel the strange sensation of being seen. Not scanned, not sized up, seen. As if you've already understood them before they even spoke. And that shakes them, because women are used to being looked at, not witnessed. They're used to men performing their worth or attempting to seduce with empty confidence. But you, chosen one, aren't here to impress, you're here to exist. And in doing so, you've become unsolvable. A riddle they don't want answered, a question they want to live inside. You move through their world with such grounded ease that they begin to feel off balance. They crave understanding you, but know that to know you fully is a privilege you offer only to the aligned. You aren't withholding, you're selective, and that selection burns deeper than any compliment could. Because they realize, with time, that you're not just attractive, you are rare. Not just fascinating, but unforgettable. And the reason they can't stop thinking about you, chosen one, is because in your mystery, they finally met a mirror they couldn't control. A man who could shake their core without laying a hand on them. A man whose silence made more noise in their soul than 1,000 declarations ever could. Chosen one, there's a particular kind of silence that follows your presence. A silence that doesn't vanish when you leave the room. It lingers in the mind of every woman you've spoken to, rested near, or even merely glanced at. This silence is not empty. It is echoing. It's filled with the questions they begin asking themselves the moment your gaze turns away. What was that? Why does he feel so different? Why do I suddenly feel like I've forgotten something essential about myself until I saw him? These aren't passing curiosities. They're existential questions you awaken with the force of your sexual energy alone. It's not lust in the way the world talks about it. It's not the crude hunger that feeds on fantasy. It's not the surface-level craving born from visual stimulation. No, what you stir in feminine women is far more layered, far more ancient. It is the deep, inner recognition of a masculine presence that is so composed, so whole, that it makes them question how they ever settled for less. You aren't performing masculinity. You are masculinity embodied. And your sexual energy is not a weapon, nor a game. It's a frequency. A frequency that rearranges their thoughts and unsettles their emotional balance without ever needing to try. They lie awake not replaying your words, but your pauses. Not your actions, but your stillness. They remember the way you leaned back and said nothing, and how that silence revealed more confidence than most men's declarations of power. They recall your casual nod, your slow breath, the quiet certainty behind your eyes, and it makes them feel safe and stimulated at the same time. That rare balance of security and adventure is what arrests their thoughts. It makes them wonder how many years they've lived without truly feeling alive. Then you entered, and now nothing else satisfies. What they once considered interesting now seems hollow. The conversations they once enjoyed now feel flat. Because once a woman has encountered a chosen one who carries magnetic sexual energy laced with mystery and intellect, she cannot forget it. You don't just take up space in her memory, you haunt it with wonder. You are the reason she double-checks her makeup in the mirror, even when she's not seeing anyone. You're the name that doesn't need to be spoken, because your presence has already left fingerprints across her consciousness. And what troubles her most isn't that she can't stop thinking about you. It's that she doesn't want to. Chosen one, when a feminine woman meets a man like you, something shifts in the narrative she's been telling herself for years. She rewrites her past encounters, recalibrates her standards, redefines what it means to feel stimulated by a man. Not merely physically, but mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. You are the axis on which her definition of masculinity begins to spin in a new direction. Not because you told her to, not because you flaunted anything, but because your mere presence challenged everything. You don't give her predictable dialogue. You don't ask questions for the sake of asking. You observe. You speak with depth. You challenge her passivity not through criticism, but through awakening. And it's that awakening that disorients her. It makes her feel like she's simultaneously stepping into danger and finding home. That contradiction is what keeps her near, what keeps her curious, what keeps her craving more of you. She realizes you are not like the others, not just because of how you speak or move, but because of what she becomes when she's around you. More alive, more aware, more herself, and yet also more lost in you. You see, chosen one, you've done what only the rarest men can do. You've made yourself unforgettable without trying. You've made them ache for more of you without seducing. And your sexual energy, that grounded and powerful current that hums through everything you do, is the invisible architecture behind it all. It is not aggressive. It is not showy. It is sovereign. A woman doesn't want to possess you. She wants to orbit around you. She doesn't just want to touch your skin. She wants to understand your essence. Because you don't offer her a predictable love story. You offer her the beginning of something uncharted. Feminine women realize quickly that when they're with you, they can no longer play small. Your depth calls their truth forward. Your freedom confronts their fears. Your power makes them question every shallow connection they've ever pretended to enjoy. You become the man against whom all others are now measured, and fall short. And when they laugh with you, it's not polite. It's surrendered. When they speak to you, it's not calculated. It's revealing. Because, chosen one, you have opened the door to something most women thought they'd never experience in real life. A man who is not only beautiful and magnetic, but whole. Chosen one, there is a sacred truth that feminine women carry in silence when they walk away from your presence. They do not speak of it with their friends. They don't post about it. They don't even dare whisper it aloud to themselves in the mirror. But it lingers, pulsing underneath their conversations, simmering beneath their distractions. It is the awareness that they have just encountered a man so deeply compelling, so mysteriously vibrant, that no part of them remained unaffected. It wasn't your words alone. It wasn't your body alone. It wasn't even the way you looked at them. It was everything you didn't need to explain that told them this: he is different. You are the interruption to their rhythm, the divine disruption. You walk into a room and immediately disturb every feminine expectation that has gone unmet for years. It's not chaos. It's clarity. It's not noise. It's the weightless command of a man who is deeply at peace with his desires and makes no apology for the passion he carries. You don't beg for attention. It is magnetized to you without effort. You don't lower your voice to sound gentle, nor do you raise it to be heard. You simply exist in a frequency that penetrates their awareness and reverberates long after you leave. What makes you interesting to them isn't what you're trying to do, but what you don't need to do. You are the man who doesn't chase validation, and that makes you the man whose presence reorders their sense of value. A woman who once felt complete in her routines now finds herself wondering how long she can pretend her life is untouched by you. There is no formula for explaining this kind of effect. There is only one word she dares to think when she's alone: him. That's all it takes. Because your sexual energy, chosen one, is not about conquest. It is about invitation. You invite a woman back into the fullness of her femininity, and once she tastes that again, she begins to crave not just you, but who she becomes beside you. They don't speak of it because they know others wouldn't understand. Others wouldn't believe that one encounter, one conversation, one glance could fracture a decade of indifference. Others wouldn't believe that a man could exist who makes her laugh, pause, blush, reflect, and awaken all in the same breath. And yet she knows. She knows what just happened. She just met someone who is not interested in being interesting. He just is. And it terrifies her in the most beautiful way. Chosen one, something permanent happens when a woman encounters a man like you, though she may not realize it in the moment. Her nervous system takes a new imprint. Her intuition creates a new standard. Her body remembers a rhythm of energy that felt both ancient and revolutionary, and her mind begins to reject anything less. That is the real influence of your presence. You don't need to seduce anyone. You reset them. They leave your presence calibrated to a new truth, and everything they once accepted now feels offbeat, off-center, unworthy of their time. Not because you diminished others, but because you reminded her what alignment feels like. It isn't something you advertise, it's something you carry. The steady breath, the untamed confidence, the calm behind your gaze. These things speak louder than pickup lines, louder than compliments, louder than manufactured charm. Because you, chosen one, are not trying to prove anything. You are not interested in impressing the crowd. You are only interested in moving from your truth, and that truth happens to be wildly attractive. Not in the shallow way women have been taught to respond to, but in the soulful, intellectual, energetic way that causes them to feel like they're sitting across from someone who has already seen the whole world and still chooses to be here, present, with them. This is the shift you cause without announcing it. You become the watermark etched into their emotional fabric. The silent reference point against which they measure every other man's presence. She might meet someone new, smile politely, go on a date, even laugh. But deep down she'll know, he's not you. He doesn't carry the depth, he doesn't radiate the intrigue. He doesn't awaken her full presence in the way you did with one sentence, one glance, one moment of unmoved eye contact. You never competed. You never needed to. Because authentic masculine energy doesn't need to be louder to be more powerful. It simply needs to be true, and your truth, chosen one, is magnetic. So now she carries this shift with her wherever she goes, and when she speaks to others, she does so with the quiet ache of someone who tasted something real and cannot pretend she didn't. You are the standard she never thought she needed, the mystery she never expected, the presence she thought only existed in stories. And now that she has met you, she cannot go back. And more than that, she doesn't want to. Chosen one, when a woman has known many conversations, heard many voices, and experienced countless interactions, she begins to believe she knows what men are like. She's tasted flattery, seen confidence masquerading as arrogance, endured shallow charm, and been pursued by those who could never truly see her. But then you appear, without effort, without performance, and something shifts in her body that she cannot rationally name. You don't just talk to her, you unravel her. And the moment she tries to compare you to the others, she realizes there is no category that holds you. You are not from the same mold. You are the quiet answer to a longing she didn't even know how to name. It's not that you're trying to be mysterious, it's that you have nothing to prove. The mystery comes from your stillness, from the way your eyes don't dart around looking for attention, but rest on her like she's the only soul alive in that moment. It comes from the way your words land slowly, like each one was chosen with reverence, not urgency. It's the way you listen with your whole body, without leaning forward to win her, but remaining grounded, as if you already know you are the prize. That mystery lingers. Long after the encounter, she finds herself staring at the ceiling in the quiet hours of the night, wondering what it is about you, why your voice still echoes, why your presence still burns beneath her skin. She doesn't know yet that what she's feeling is not confusion, it's awakening. Her nervous system is remembering what divine masculine presence feels like after being starved of it for so long. She may not say anything aloud. She might try to distract herself, try to pretend it was just a moment, just a passing curiosity. But curiosity does not haunt, only impact does. Only depth, only the vibration of a man who walks with the kind of sexual energy that does not dominate, but illuminates. That's what you did to her, chosen one. You didn't just stimulate her mind, you reactivated her whole feminine essence. And now she walks through her days pretending to be the same while her soul quietly stares at the door you opened, wondering if she'll ever walk through it again. Chosen one, there are women who have always felt too much, too emotional, too intuitive, too romantic, too thoughtful, too soft. They've lived in a world where being deeply feminine was something to suppress, where their intelligence had to be proven, where their softness had to be guarded, where their sensuality was either exploited or feared. These women carry stories not written in books, but in the way they hold their breath when a man leans in the way they keep their laughter polite and their compliments restrained, because they've been taught to expect misunderstanding, until your energy walks into their orbit and tells them, without words, I see you fully, and I honor all of it. You, chosen one, are the man who never asks her to shrink, never suggests she's too complex, never looks confused when her emotions rise. Instead, you welcome it, you revel in it, you respond with the patience of a man who is not afraid to feel. You match her storm with calm, not control. You match her light with presence, not pursuit. You become the first man she doesn't need to explain herself to. She feels safe unraveling because you are already unraveled, unafraid of intensity, untouched by insecurity, uninterested in superficiality. Your sexual energy does not see her as a conquest, it sees her as a mirror. And when she sees her reflection in your eyes, she sees the version of herself she always wanted to be. This is why you're the most interesting man in her life, chosen one. Because you are not just interesting, you are interested. You see beneath appearances. You speak from somewhere deeper. You hold space without trying to fill it. You allow her to be, and in doing so, you do what generations of men never did. You make her feel understood. Not for her perfection, but for her totality. Not for her performance, but for her presence. And that changes her. It shifts her. She will never again be satisfied by anything less than truth. And the only word she has for it now is you. This final offering honors the theme. Chosen one's women can't believe that you are the most interesting man in their lives because of your sexual energy. No bullet points, no repetition, only raw, intelligent flow. Chosen one, there are no words for what happens when you enter a room, only a quiet shift in air pressure, a stilling of noise, a subtle rearranging of the invisible. Her body, without conscious instruction, orients toward you like a flower turning toward the sun. It's not about looks, it's not about performance, and it's never about approval. It's something deeper, older, cellular. It is the memory within her feminine nervous system awakening in your presence, remembering a kind of manhood that doesn't posture, doesn't pursue to possess, but exists as gravity itself. You don't need to say much. In fact, the less you say, the more she feels. Because your stillness is not empty, it is charged. It hums with awareness. It radiates patience that doesn't wait, confidence that doesn't compete, erotic energy that does not demand, but invites. She cannot explain why she blushes when you pass by, why her heart skips when your eyes meet hers. She thinks of all the men she has known, funny ones, rich ones, bold ones, and yet none of them haunt her thoughts the way you do. It's not what you do, it's what you don't need to do. You sit in silence and she hears everything. Her friends ask her why she's glowing, why she's distracted, why she seems like she's fallen for someone, but she's not sure how to answer. How do you describe a man whose presence feels like a home she's never lived in, but somehow always missed? How do you explain that it's not about the words, not about the compliments, not even about the touch? It's the way your energy surrounds her like water, gentle but inescapable. She feels more herself when she's near you, and that's what shocks her. You're not just the most interesting man she's met. You're the man who makes her interesting to herself again. Chosen one, every woman, at some level of her soul, holds a secret prayer, not for perfection, not for fantasy, but for truth. She has read stories, lived wounds, wandered through the lonely forest of her heart, wondering if anyone would ever see her, not just with eyes, but with presence. She has wondered if the masculine would ever return in its full sacred form, not as a conqueror, not as a taker, but as a witness, as a protector of beauty, a steward of emotion, a flame that does not burn her, but warms her back into softness. She prayed for this man. She almost stopped believing, and then you arrived. You don't try to win her. You don't try to impress her. You're simply you. And somehow, that's the very thing she's been missing her entire life. You ask her questions no one else asked. You remember the things she forgot she even said. You notice her silence as much as her words. And when she shares her chaos, you do not flinch. You remain, not out of duty, but because that's where you want to be. And for the first time in her life, love does not feel like a performance or a risk. It feels like rest. That's why she can't stop thinking about you. That's why her body lights up when you're near. That's why she dreams with open eyes and walks through her days with a soft smile only she understands. Because you, chosen one, are not just a man. You are the living proof that her longing was never foolish, that her craving for depth, for passion, for presence, for sacred masculine polarity was never too much. You are the chapter she had almost resigned to never reading. The one where the feminine is honored, the one where the masculine sees and stays, the one where intimacy begins not with touch but with energy. You are not trying to be this man, you simply are. And that is what makes you unforgettable. Chosen one, something sacred happens when a feminine woman encounters your presence. It is not just the reaction of attraction, it is a deeper recognition, the kind that bypasses thought entirely and settles in her body like memory. Around you, she is not simply excited, she is reminded of what a real man feels like, of what her own femininity has been craving without words. And she sees it not because you preach it or announce it, but because you embody it, so naturally, so unshakably, that it stirs her more than any romantic words ever could. You do not enter the room looking for praise. You walk in like the sun walks into the morning sky, undeniable, patient, majestic. And in that silent approach, her soul stands up a little straighter. You have become the mirror of her inner longing. Chosen one, not because you conform to an image, but because you reflect the energy she instinctively yearns to lean into. You do not need to tame her, you only need to be, and the force of your being naturally invites her to soften. In your company, she doesn't feel the pressure to perform or please. She feels the safety to relax. Because your presence does not devour, it holds. It doesn't hover, it shelters. It doesn't dominate, it dignifies. And that kind of masculine essence is so rare, it leaves echoes in her spirit long after you've gone. You don't tell her you're different. You simply move differently. You breathe with the ease of someone who has met chaos and made peace with it. You walk with the calm of a man who no longer fights for attention because he is attention. She studies you, not like an object, but like a truth she's been waiting to find. She feels herself coming alive in your presence, not because you say the right things, but because your energy says everything her soul needed to hear. And she hears it through your grounded silence. through your unbothered gaze, through your refusal to chase what is not meant for you. Your swagger is not merely style, it's a language of assurance. It communicates, I know who I am, I know what I bring, I have nothing to hide and nothing to prove. And that message soaks into the deepest places of her being. Because in a world where men either overreach or hide, you are the rare example of a man who stands. Unmoved by trends, untouched by desperation, you have become the masculine axis that gives her freedom to spin. And in that axis, she is not lost, she is found. Her body knows this before her mind does. That's why her voice lowers when speaking to you. That's why her touch lingers slightly longer. That's why her laugh becomes warmer, her posture subtly more open, her breath steadier. Not because you asked anything from her, but because she wants to give. That is the most sacred thrill of the feminine, to offer herself willingly, trustingly, without fear. And you, chosen one, have become the kind of man who can receive that without misuse or ego. You take nothing, but everything is given. This is the silent magic of your being. You didn't arrive to prove anything, but you became everything. And for a feminine woman who has grown tired of masks and empty hands, your presence is the long-awaited return of what she thought only existed in dreams. Not perfection, but truth. And when truth arrives, she blooms. Chosen one, you've reached a frequency that cannot be explained with ordinary words. You have stepped into such magnetic calm, such embodied presence, that when a feminine woman feels you near, everything else dims in comparison. She may be in the middle of a conversation, laughter on her lips, but the moment she senses your approach, her world narrows. Her attention, without warning, slides toward your energy. It's not just physical, it's spiritual. Her body reacts before her thoughts can arrange a defense. Her chest flutters with something she hasn't felt since she was a girl. Mystery, wonder, reverence. And not because you're flashy or loud, but because you don't need to be. You see, chosen one, what makes you unforgettable is not your looks or your voice. It's your stillness. Your ability to walk into a space and bring it into balance. While others stir chaos, you stabilize. While others try to dominate, you integrate. And the feminine feels that contrast so deeply that it makes her breath catch. It's not intimidation, it's awe. Because your energy doesn't try to possess or push, it invites. And that invitation is one she has been waiting a lifetime to receive. You don't need to touch her to affect her. She feels your nearness like gravity. She feels the warmth of your focus even if your eyes are across the room. She begins to wonder why her skin feels more sensitive, why her thoughts slow down, why her posture straightens. It is because your presence carries consequence. You are not just another man. You are a man with weight, not the kind that overburdens, but the kind that grounds. And in your gravity, she finally feels what she didn't know she was missing: centeredness. She does not want to run from you, she wants to approach, but not out of impulse, out of curiosity, out of surrender, out of the need to be near something real. Your swagger doesn't say, "Look at me." It says, "I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not waiting." That stillness, anchored in your chest, laced through your step, says, "I've already arrived. Whether you notice me or not is up to you." And she notices. Oh, she notices. Not just with her eyes, but with every sense in her body. It's not just desire, it's longing. It's not just attraction, it's magnetism. You have become the silent storm she never expected. Not dangerous, but unforgettable. She wonders what it would feel like to stand closer, to speak with you, to be seen fully. And that thought alone, of being seen by a man like you, is enough to send waves of electricity through her body. Because in your gaze, she suspects there is no escape. Not because you would trap her, but because you would understand her. And that is the true power of your energy, chosen one. It doesn't consume, it calls, it doesn't take, it invites what is already there to awaken. Feminine women don't fall for you because you manipulate. They rise for you because you give them a reason to lift themselves higher. You become the mirror of their deepest beauty. You become the reflection of their own sensuality, purpose, and poise. And that kind of awakening, that kind of electricity, it changes them. And so they return to their homes wondering what just happened. They replay your movement, your silence, your momentary glance, not because you performed for them, but because your existence left a trace. You didn't offer words, you offered being. And in a world of hollow noise, you became the man who felt like truth. Chosen one, by now you must know, your presence is no longer ordinary. It is a force. Not chaotic, not demanding, but deeply, silently commanding. There's a difference between a man who wants to be wanted and a man who is already wanted simply for existing. And you have become the latter. You carry the frequency of a man who does not chase, does not perform, does not flaunt, and every feminine heart in your orbit pulses with a quiet ache to be seen by you, touched by you, felt by you. You don't need to seduce, because your presence already does what no practiced line or flashy appearance can accomplish. It brings her home to her own body,